So hello guys, welcome back to my channel Edulon Education. So today we all are doing the chapter How, When and Where, which is the first chapter in NCERT book for class 8th. Moving on, let's see its introduction. Right, talking about the introduction of a thing is really important for us to understand the chapter nicely. Like, when were you born? How did you come to know about it? Where were you born? This is the chapter name How, When, and Where. How did you know about that you're born? The date of yours through parents or maybe the grandparents of yours. When you were born, there's respective date of that, the month, and the year in which you are born. Right. Now, talking about where you are born in a village or a town or a city, metropolitan city, it could be any city. Like, suppose there is a person, right, who is born how, when, and where. So, how was this person born? It was born by some processes, right? Where was it born? It was born in a town or a city, right? In a hospital, basically. So, in this chapter, how, when, and where, what does how means? Important dates, periodization, and sources. When means time, 18th century onwards. Where means कहाँ की बात कर रहे हैं हम लोग इस चैप्टर में? इंडियन सब कॉन्टिनेंट. इस पूरे चैप्टर के अंदर हमने क्या पढ़ना है? क्या क्या पढ़ना है? वो है important dates, periodization and the sources. Talking about कब का है ये जो हम पढ़ रहे हैं? 18th century से शुरू है. कहाँ हम पढ़ रहे हैं? इंडियन सब कॉन्टिनेंट का पढ़ रहे हैं. Right? How important are dates? Okay, this is really a basic question according to me. How important are dates? History is synonymous with dates. What does the word synonymous? Synonymous means. Synonym means milta julta. Synonym means same और मिलता जुलता. Right, बीच बीच में मैं कुछ notes लिखती रहूँगी. That would be a bit helpful for you all. Right, synonymous means same और मिलता जुलता. राइट, सेम और मिलता जुलता. हिस्ट्री को डेट से मिलता जुलता माना जाता था. किससे? डेट से. आज भी आप हैं, पढ़ रहे हैं. पढ़ना मजबूरी है, ठीक है? पढ़ना आप लोगों की मजबूरी है. हिस्ट्री पढ़ना, नॉट ऑल सब्जेक्ट्स, राइट? स्टडिंग हिस्ट्री इज योर, आई शुड से, मजबूरी. उसी तरह हिस्ट्री भी डेट से मिलती जुलती है, ऐसा आप लोगों का मानना होगा. एंड आई एम डैम श्योर अबाउट दिस दैट हिस्ट्री अकॉर्डिंग टू यू इज एज सिमिलर एज द डेट्स, राइट? Now, name the last powerful Mughal emperor. Who was it? It was Aurangzeb. It was Aurangzeb. When did he died? 1707. He was the last powerful Mughal ruler. इसके बाद there was one more who would be studying. अब यहाँ पे ध्यान दीजिएगा. Last powerful Mughal ruler was, what is happening to this? Ruler was Aurangzeb. Who was it? Aurangzeb. He was the last one. Powerful. That's why I specially used with this word Aurangzeb, the last powerful Mughal ruler. पावरफुल से मतलब आपका क्या होता है? शक्ति वाला. ही वॉज द लास्ट पावरफुल मुगल रूलर. पावरफुल का मतलब है शक्तिशाली, ठीक है। ये ऐसा एक रूलर था लास्ट जिसके पास बहुत ज़्यादा हमारी पास थी। नेक्स्ट, आफ्टरवर्ड्स the death of him, the death of him, Bahadur Shah Zafar, Bahadur Shah Zafar came. But he was not much powerful. Alright, this is the very important thing in which बच्चे हमारे सबसे ज़्यादा किसके अंदर कंफ्यूज होते हैं, वो हमारा यही है that who was the last powerful Mughal ruler. Right. This is the main doubts for the kids, and I've seen it. And let me tell you the truth that I'm not so grown up child. I'm also in eighth only. Right. So I'm studying these recently. Right. I'm just studying. I've gone through this. लाइक लास्ट पावरफुल रूलर हमारा औरंगज़ेब था, लेकिन उसके बाद भी रूलर आए थे मुग़ल, वो था बहादुर शाह जफ़र। लास्ट पावरफुल मुग़ल रूलर वॉज औरंगज़ेब बट वॉज द लास्ट मुग़ल रूलर, नॉट पावरफुल। लास्ट पावरफुल मुग़ल रूलर तो हमारा कौन था, औरंगज़ेब। बट टॉकिंग अबाउट द लास्ट मुग़ल रूलर देन इट वॉज बहादुर शाह जफ़र, ठीक है। He also played a really important role in the revolt of 1857, which you be studying, right? Is such a conception true? क्या ये सच है कि हिस्ट्री हमेशा डेट्स के साथ ही मिलती जुलती है? Is it true? History is about changes. हिस्ट्री किसके बारे में है? चेंजेस के बारे में, जो टाइम टू टाइम होते हैं, नॉट विद डेट्स. Over here comes is the main thing. History is not all about dates, it is about the changes that have occurred over the period of time. This is what history is. See, now over here I'm not taking the support of history, but the thing is still that history is not all about dates, it is about the changes that have occurred over time. It is about finding out how things were in the past and how things have changed. Now let me talk about you yourself. Your face, your शक्ल, आपका शक्ल जिसको आप हर दिन मिरर में देखते हैं, अच्छा अच्छा बनाकर स्कूल जाते हैं, कॉलेज जाते हैं, जॉब जाते हैं, काम करते हैं, ठीक है ना. आई एम जस्ट टॉकिंग अबाउट योर शक्ल, योर फेस, दैट इट यू लुक्ड अ बिट डिफरेंट at the time of your childhood, but now you're a bit different, so you have changed. Similarly is the history. History is about finding out that how things were in the past and how they have changed. Like if I take your photograph of when you were a child, then what would happen? I would find out how you were in the past and how now you have changed. So history is all about the past and the changes that have occurred over the time. Also also the thing is that many of them says in my school itself that this book of history, this is just फालतू, एक फालतू चीज है, ये तो मर गए, अपनी यादें हमको देकर चले गए. This is what the many students say. But the thing is, we should know the history of our country, right? History is about processes and things that happen over a period of time. Brahmins offering the Shastras to Britannia frontispiece to the first map produced by James Renner in 1782. Right, so now talking about James Renner. James Renner was a British person, as his name suggests. He was a British, right? So he was a British. He was born on this date. This is not, I guess, this much. Uh, Sorry, I don't think that this was this much, important for you all. But he died on this date. Is it given over here? It is only given that when was the first map produced. So just forget this. He was the leading British geographer of his time. He constructed the first nearly accurate map of India. Now suppose, I'll tell you what suppose. Right. Suppose this is you. Right, I'm just doing a circle, that too very awful. And this is your head. Who's governing you? Suppose that you are a British. This person is a British. Suppose it. Only suppose. You have to imagine it. You are a British and this person is a British and this person is your head. This person is your head. And you're asked to produce a map of a country. Would you be able to produce it? No, I'm not ever here taking the side of British. I'm not here favoring the British that yes, Britishers were good, they created map of India, they were nice, blah blah blah. I'm not saying this at all. I am saying that keep yourselves in the place of James Renner, and you are also asked to draw the map of India. Would you be able to draw it accurately? No. Why? It's not possible for you, right? ठीक है. So he nearly accurate यानी पूरा पूरा accurate नहीं लेकिन बहुत ही ज़्यादा nearly accurate, right? Next is what's here then. Living in world, we do not always ask historical questions about what we see around us. Looking out the window of the train, you may ask yourself when were railways built and how the people travel long distance before the age of railways. अब देखो, आप ना आराम से ट्रेन में बैठो. Now see that you are sitting on a train peacefully, and suddenly in your mind comes a question that when were these railways built and how were the people travel long distances before the age of railways? Right. You may be just thinking about that, right? So हमारे मन में तो आते हैं सवाल हिस्ट्री के कि किसने बनाई, उससे पहले क्या होता था. We take things for granted as if what we see has always been in the world we inhabit. We ask questions that actually are historical. Watching someone sip a cup of tea at roadside tea stall, you may wonder when did people begin to drink tea or coffee. Now, it is trying to say that history is not that bad. When you're doing something, you ask yourselves that when did people begin to do this? When was this invented? When was this discovered? How people traveled before? Right? You yourself ask these questions. People in India did not begin drinking tea one fine day, they developed a taste for it over time. Like now, important note over here, Britishers were the ones who changed our taste in each manner. Now, 1922 advertisement for Lipton Tea, the third son of Queen Victoria of Britain, Prince Arthur, who was given the title Duke of Connaught. History is referred to as the span of time. We cannot determine a specific date when British rule was started, as it happened over a span of time. Like हम ये नहीं बता सकते कि ब्रिटिश रूल पर्टिकुलरली इस डेट को, इस महीने को, इस ईयर को, इस टाइम को शुरू हुआ था, बिकॉज इट हैड अ लॉट ऑफ स्पैन ऑफ टाइम एंड द रिकॉर्ड्स विच वर फाउंडेड बाय द आर्कियोलॉजिस्ट, it was not mentioned in that then when did British came, what was the day, what was the date, what was the time, right? Similarly, we developed a taste of drinking tea over a period of time. See the advertisement on the right. This is the advertisement. This is the Queen Victoria's third son, as mentioned over here, Prince Arthur, who was given the title Duke of Connaught. Right. सो फर्स्ट ब्रिटिशर्स जस्ट देखते थे ब्रिटिशर्स कि हम सिर्फ लस्सी दूध वगैरह भी पीते हैं हम लोग. That is why Britishers introduced tea and coffee in our area. Earlier, history was associated with string of dates. This was because history used to keep a track of battles and big events. Right? पहले क्या होता था कि हिस्ट्री सिर्फ और सिर्फ इस चीज़ का ट्रैक रखती थी कि कब कौन सी लड़ाई शुरू हुई, कब कौन सी ख़त्म हुई, उसके बीच में कितने लोग मरे, उसके बीच में कौन से बड़े लोग मरे, उसके बीच में कौन से राजा महाराजा मरे, उसके बीच में कितने सोल्जर्स से लड़ाई हुई, किसके साथ लड़ाई हुई, क्या रीज़न था लड़ाई का, पहले ये हमारे वो रखते थे. ठीक है ना. At present, history is a wider concept which includes how and what concepts, right? So, if you study today's history, you would see the questions how and what was happened, right? For example, how people earn their livelihood, what did they produce and eat, etc. So on. Criteria, what is the criteria? What is the thinking of this of ours to the set of dates? Dates became important when we assume that a particular set of events are important, right? Though your birthday is important, your family members' birthdays, anniversaries are important to you. Similarly, dates become important only when we assume that this is important to remember. This is something that cannot be forgotten. Most of the history in India was written by British historians. These historians started writing with the rule of first Governor General Warren Hastings and ended with the last Viceroy, Lord Mountbatten. Now over here it was Governor General, but now here it became Viceroy. This you would be studying in the further chapters. How, when, and where, it's just introduction chapter. Right? Date Ab. What happened? Suppose this is the president of a place which is Muslim, and in the constitution there is no concept of secularism, no concept. So would you think that this person would give a chance to any Hindu to write a book of himself? No. Similarly, if there is British which is superior, it would give the right to the British only to write the particular book, so that they can write is everything positive. Talking about Warren Hastings, he was the first Governor General. Right, these histories begin with the rule of and ended with Lord Mountbatten. Warren Hastings, he was the first Governor General of India in 1773. You have to remember on which date was the map produced. It was 1782, right? And you have to remember in which year Warren Hastings became the first Governor General. Warren Hastings was a competent, honorable, and far-sighted administrator whose policies, while some controversial, sorry, decisively shaped and stabilized future Anglo-Indian relations. The controversy surrounding his administration made him the subject of impeachment and trial in Great Britain. The life of British Governor General became viral because we focus on it. Similarly, if we change focus and begin to look at the activities of different groups and classes in Indian society within the format of the history of Governor Generals, then a new set of dates will become important for us to know. Right now, what does it saying? That the governor generals are vital. Like water is vital, similarly the governor generals are vital, on which we focus. If we see that if they would be important, then there would be a new set of dates that would be important for us only to know it. Moving on, criteria to periodize. In 1817, this would become a whole question. How did James Mill periodize the Indian history? This would become the question. Let me write it over here for you. How did, sorry, James Mill periodize Indian history. Right, how did he periodize? Then this whole would come in 1817, a Scottish economist, स्कॉट से था वो, पॉलिटिकल फिलोसफर था, यानी उसकी राजनीतिक कार्य, राजनीतिक मामलों में भी बहुत वो था role, named James Mill, published a book, History of British India. In this book, the Indian history is divided into three periods: Hindu, which we have learnt in 6th class, Muslims, Mughal rulers, which we learnt in 7th class, and British, which we would be learning now. Right? So, Indian history classification: ancient history, medieval history, modern history. Ancient is 4000 BC to AD 500. Medieval is AD 500 to AD 1500. And modern is AD 1500 to present. Now, what is the thing that in ancient there were Hindu rulers? Talking about in medieval, there were Mughal rulers. And talking about the modern history, there were British rulers. Right? So now, what were the sources of writing this, history? The textbooks which you study today, it is just a small part. But now, if you want to really study it, you would have to go through the major part because it's really wide, really, really wide. Sources that historians use in writing about last 25 years on Indian history includes, but this is done pre-period, right? Why do we try and divide history? This is important question, that why do we divide history into different periods? ताकि हमें टाइम के करेक्टरिस्टिक्स पता चले, उसके सेंट्रल फीचर्स यानी मेन चीज़ें तब क्या रही थी, to show change from one period to the next. History divided, right? This I told you. What is colonial? When the subjugation of one country by another leads to political, economic, social, and cultural changes. Right? What is colonial? The subjugation when the control of one country by another. जब ये एक कंट्री है वो दूसरी कंट्री पे रूल कर रही है, तो वहाँ दूसरी कंट्री जहाँ रूल हो रहे हैं वहाँ पे पॉलिटिकल, इकोनॉमिक और सोशल और कल्चरल चेंजेस होते हैं, तब हम उस बोलते हैं कलोनियल. Moving on to the sources of writing history, official records of British administration. Now, Britishers came from England, right? England side, and they used to have a proper record of each and everything. So, every plan, policy, agreement was in writing. This led to administrative culture of memos, notings, and reports. Now, there would be question from this: what were the sources of writing history? These are some of the internal questions. If you want to write them, you may write it or take a screenshot as well. Right? British also kept all documents preserved in the record room. Right? There's bathroom for you to bath, bedroom for you to sleep, study room for you to study, kitchen to make food. Similarly, if there is a plan, it would go in another room. If there is any, each and every department had its own room. And moreover, these documents were written by calligraphists who specialized in the art of beautiful handwriting. पहले लोगों की handwriting ऐसी होती थी, ये जैसे मैं लिख रही हूँ, सपोज मैम लिखते हैं, पहले उनकी राइटिंग ना ऐसी गंदी गंदी सी होती थी. समझ तो आ रहा है बट इट नॉट क्लियर. जो हमारे कैलीग्राफिस्ट होते थे ना, उनकी राइटिंग इट वाज ब्यूटीफुल. राइट. National Archives of India, it came up in 1920s, as we can see over here. It is a record room where all the documents and letters from government and various administrations have been arranged as from 18th centuries and are preserved in good condition. If you see that it is still there in India, National Archives is still in Delhi, it may be renovated, right? So it is a record room where all the past records are kept. Moving on, again, the sources of writing history. Administration produced records, the important sources of historians. Period is written official records of the British administration. Like in this archive, there is still the British administration resources records. Right, sources of writing history, conducting surveys. Conducting surveys was common under colonial administration. Now, what was this colonial administration? Colonial administration, have I told you the colonial? I've already told you the definition of colonial, right? So now what is colonial administration की जब किसी दूसरी कंट्री की नेता की एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन हो जाती है. The British believed that a country had to be properly known before it could be effectively administrated. अब देखो नेक्स्ट चैप्टर में पहले हम इसमें पढ़ रहे हैं उन्होंने रूल करा ये करा वो करा, बट अगले चैप्टर में ये पढ़ेंगे ब्रिटिश सिर्फ ट्रेड करने आए थे, इसलिए उस चैप्टर का नाम भी यही है, फ्रॉम ट्रेड टू टेरिटरी द कंपनी एस्टैब्लिशेस पावर. ठीक है, by early 19th century, detailed surveys were being carried out to map the entire country, for example, forest services and zoological services. What official records did not tell us? So now what official records? हमें पता है कि हम लोगों को official records क्या बताया करते थे. Official records हमें ये बताया करते थे कि भी एक राजा ने ब्रिटिशर के एक राजा ने कितने टाइम, राजा नहीं गवर्नर जनरल ने कितने टाइम रूल करा, उसने कौन कौन सी नई पॉलिसीज निकाली, कौन से ईयर में निकाली, कौन सी बैटल्स लड़ी, बैटल्स में कितनों को मारा, कौन से साल में हुई, उनकी जीत हुई नहीं हुई, नहीं हुई तो क्या रीज़न था, हुई तो कैसे हुई. ठीक है, दिस इज व्हाट ऑफिशियल रिकॉर्ड्स डिड टेल अस, बट इट डजंट टेल अस व्हाट द पीपल इन द कंट्री फेल्ड. अब ऑटोबायोग्राफीज लिखते हैं पीपल अपने फीलिंग्स के लिए लिखते हैं. अगर कोई ऐसी नॉवल लिखता है या मैं बोलती हूँ अगर कोई ऑफिशियल रिकॉर्ड लिख रहा है कि पीपल इन द कंट्री वर वेरी हैप्पी, दे जस्ट वांटेड दिस रूल, दिस एंड दैट, did they write that were the people in the country were really happy? Did they have anyone's writing proof in that? No, right? So official records never told us that what the people of the country felt. Only diaries of people, travelers, autobiographies or important personalities can tell about literate people. राइट अब जैसे हमने बड़ा ओके ना लास्ट चैप्टर है द मेकिंग ऑफ द नेशनल मूवमेंट्स फ्रॉम 1920 टू 1947. उसके अंदर हमने पढ़ना है बड़ी बड़ी हस्तियों के बारे में, बड़ी बड़ी पर्सनालिटीज़ के बारे में. ठीक है ना, सिर्फ वही अपनी ऑटोबायोग्राफीज में बता देते सच क्या था. नो रिकॉर्ड ऑफ हिस्ट्री इज अवेलेबल फॉर द ट्राइबल्स, पीजेंट्स, वर्कर्स और द पुअर. अब हिस्ट्री के अंदर जो ऑफिशियल रिकॉर्ड्स ने हिस्ट्री लिखी थी उसके अंदर ट्राइबल्स आदिवासी का जीवन कैसा था, काम करने वालों का, खेती मजदूर बाड़ी करने वालों का जीवन कैसा था, गरीब बंदों का जीवन कैसा था. ठीक है, ये सब नहीं बताया जाता था ऑफिशियल रिकॉर्ड्स में. ऑफिशियल रिकॉर्ड सिर्फ ये बताते थे कि भी क्या क्या हमने देश में करा, क्या नहीं करा, क्या करा क्या नहीं करा. यहाँ पे जो मैंने सारी लकीरें मारी थी आप वीडियो बैक करके देख सकते हैं. So now thank you guys, we'll meet again surely in the next chapter.